What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Kuempel with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. I'm super pumped and very honored. I have a special guest. His name is Daniel Hess. He is a published author of Just a Boy Blaming Himself, and he is the founder and owner of Two Tony Productions. And he is an award-winning, your award-winning producer, correct?
Yeah, so
Oh,
I've won an award, correct?
awesome. Well, okay, sorry, I didn't want to steal your thunder, but
That's okay.
why don't you introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your background and all these wonderful things, because you are accomplished some really great things so far.
Yeah, so first off, thanks for having me on the show. It's really awesome. Um, so I started Two Tony Productions back in 2009 when I was still in college and really didn't have much of a direction for it. And kind of through the years, it's been through a couple transformations as I've been through in my life. Um, and I've had the honor to work with a lot of different creative people, a lot of different talented people. And my most, well, not my most recent, but a more recent short film that I worked on did win an Audience Choice Awards for a pretty sizable like art house film festival back in 2019. So that was pretty exciting.
Wow, that is really cool. I feel like as artists, like, 'cause I'm a little bit of an artist too. The creativity. I think it's a lot of artists have a hard time with like the business side of things, but it seems like you've kind of got a good balance going. So can you tell us a little bit how you manage that? Because sometimes I feel like the creative side takes over and we lose sight of the business side. So let us know, like, how do you handle that?
Yeah, so that definitely is a big, hard part of things. I find that, especially over the years when I've done like music videos, it's one of the hardest things to sort of find a good separation of like artistry and budget because,
Yeah.
you really want to do like something super creative and super original. But a lot of times, unfortunately, like we're all artists and we're all like financially trying to make things work, so the budget usually isn't there for a project like that. Um, where I kind of found a lot of success early on when I really didn't know what I was getting into out in the world was I did wedding videography for a long time. Um, and that was, a very crazy time in my life because I mean, not only was I filming weddings, but I would have two, sometimes three other crews of people working the same weekend as I was out there filming weddings. Um, and I made really great money, but
Yeah.
the burnout in that industry is very fast.
Oh, I
And
bet. I bet.
it was definitely tough, but that's kind of where I found a lot of like success to sort of keep the business going or to keep the creativity going in a lot of ways.
Sure, sure. So you actually had other people working for you that you contracted out for your the videography for the weddings?
Yeah. So like I said, I had about two or three other crews. So about, I think at the peak was about 6 to 8 people that were like working as contractors for me at any given like time throughout the year. So it was a lot of like managing and stuff like that.
That's
Uh,
impressive. Yeah. I can only imagine. I mean, not only are you coming from a creative space, but you're also like, I know other people that do like the wedding videography, and I know that it is like taxing. That's a lot of work because not
mhm.
only do you have to deal with like the bridezilla, but just the time that you're there to catch all the footage and then having to edit it down. And so you were managing, like, that's a lot. Good for you.
Yeah, I mean,
You,
you'd just be out there for like 8 to 10 hours for a day,
oh my,
just grinding away. And I always say it's the opposite of what a wedding photographer's problem is, because with a wedding photographer, you're like leading the day, but then when you do the editing part, you can kind of just like open up a bottle of wine, listen to some music, chill out, edit the
yeah.
photos. But with wedding videographers, it's the opposite. Like during the day, you're kind of just in the background, but then on the when you're editing it, you have to like laser focus on it. There's no real just like, oh, just hamming something together and listening to music and
Yeah.
kind of chilling out. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough. It's really tough.
I couldn't imagine doing that. I mean, I like the whole creative process, but that's something that would probably get a little tedious for me. I'd be like, squirrel.
Yeah,
Woo, shiny things, shiny things.
it starts to turn into like you can almost set your watch by like what events are coming because you've just seen them so many times.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So tell us a little bit more about what you got going on in your production company today.
So these days, it's sort of I'm in a transition piece with everything. I've moved away because before, like I said, I was doing the weddings and even like corporate videography. But now I'm fully embracing the creative space, and it's been short film productions, as I can do them because a lot of these are kind of like self-funded and things like that. And then right now I am gearing up pre-production like pitch decks for a feature film that I wrote this past year. And
That's cool.
yeah, I'm working on the pitch deck now, and hopefully by beginning of March I'll start being able to knock on some producers' doors and seeing if I can't get some funding raised for it.
So you know what? Actually, I want to share something with you. My cousin, she writes scripts and stuff, but she's like more into the horror film space. Her and
Nice.
her like production company did a short film called Everything's Fine, and they submitted to a bunch of film festivals. What they did was a not Kickstarter. What's the other one? The other
Indiegogo.
Yeah, they did that and they actually did a really good job. Actually, I'll send you her contact info. So if you want any like direction or any help or anything, I mean, because they've already done it and they've won some awards for their film. I mean, I'm not big into
That's
horror,
awesome.
but you know what? It doesn't hurt to like talk to somebody to get like some advice, especially if they've done it before. Because they did like a whole thing. I remember seeing pictures they were posting of like updates of them filming. What do they call that? I mean, when they have like the camera on the tracks, you know what
Oh,
I
the
mean? Like it's
Dolly.
yes, yes, yes.
Yep.
So they had that, and they actually hired a baby. I mean, they did a pretty good job. So, but I mean, so I'll actually send you her contact. She loves
Yeah,
talking to other
please
people
do.
in the industry. So they were successful at it. They raised a lot of money. So I'll definitely send you her way. So that is exciting. Are you looking forward to that? When do you hope to once you get your pitch deck together, when do you hope what is it going to be about actually? What is your pitch? Do you want to share or no?
Well, I don't have like my full pitch together. But basically it's a story that it's about a young couple that is dealing with it's telling the last day of this like kind of tumultuous relationship between a young couple, and it's set in the 90s in a small town. And so there's a lot of things that it's sort of tackling in it. Issues of just like feeling like you're stuck in a small town,
Sure.
issues about like gender politics, because one of the major things is the guy is really dealing with like gender identity, not feeling like he sort of belongs to one or the other.
Okay.
um, there's issues of racial tension because the main lead actress is of Chinese descent in the story. um, and there's just so there's just a lot of things that's being juggled in the story and
Kind
everything.
of like what we've been going through. Like, I mean, I think the last year has been hyper focused around a lot of that. So that's kind of like good timing for something for like that to come out, and I'm sure a lot of people could relate to that story. So that's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, thank you.
I like.
Yeah, it's something that, I didn't think would get to that point, and this is sort of my fifth draft into it. But as
Cool.
I've gone on, it sort of evolved into this story, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Isn't that interesting when you start something and how often the plot can change, just like your brand, how it evolves. Because I'm experiencing that now. Like now that I've like my podcast has like done different like levels. Like it came out,
Hmm.
it was just family friends. Now I'm getting more into like the professional artistic space and talking to people that like yourself, dynamic individuals that are doing great things. I love talking to artists that are able to create businesses around what they love to do. So I'm now at a point where I'm gonna kind of like do another. I'm going to be like changing my brand a little bit to
Hmm.
upgrade it to where I'm at now. So I love the evolution. I think that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's not so fun because it can be a little painful.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You gotta walk before you run, but we just want to run right out of the gate like, woo! I'm in it. It's a
Every
marathon.
time.
Let's go.
I feel you. Like that's what I mean. Like I think people don't realize like you do. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and you really have to be prepared for that because you will. You have a lot of excitement at the beginning, and then I think the problem a lot of times that I deal with, especially, is just you start questioning yourself. You know, when you
Yeah,
don't get like instant feedback from something or that feedback is not what you were expecting, it's so easy to just kind of like shut down really quickly and sort
for
of
sure.
uh not feel like what you're doing is worthwhile all of a sudden. So I think that's a big thing that people should like realize when they're going into especially creative field stuff is that, that's going to kind of come with the territory.
And it's a little scary putting yourself out there. Like for me, I started my whole. I mean, I've always been pretty creative, but like I was a fashion designer. I jumped into that like 5 years ago, and I loved it.
Mhm.
I loved it, but it's very costly. Very, I mean, it's that was pretty intense, and that was like my first experience stepping outside of like my comfort zone and being like, "Hello, here I am. I'm here." You know, and you're like, and you like you said, you question yourself like, oh my god, are they gonna like me? They don't like me. Are they gonna like me? They
Mhm.
don't like me. And you come to a point, for me at least, you come to a point where it's like you no longer care because you're just coming from a place that you like. You're just, for me, it's just like I love doing this. I love talking to people like you. I love putting it out there, whether someone likes it or not. I don't care. But so far, so far, I've actually like at least every episode someone gets something out of it, and I
Mhm.
love getting that feedback, and I love hearing from my guests like, oh my god, this person contacted me, and I'm like, okay, so I'm doing good things, and I like to have fun with it. So I'm not taking it that serious anymore. But I remember when I did my intro when I first started this, so, so I was like, holy crap. It took me like, I had to like the recording, I probably tried to record like 10 different times, and I drank like a
Mhm.
bottle of wine, and I was like, I didn't realize how hard it was going to be to actually just start putting my message out there. So I get you. It is a little unnerving, but I feel like that's where the growth happens, don't you think?
Oh yeah, I would definitely agree. I feel like the best times for me in life is sort of like when you're most challenged, like when you're kind of pushed to a place that's like it's a little uncomfortable, but like that's those times when like I think a lot of innovation happens in life, and I
Yeah,
think you have to really like embrace that. Um,
for sure.
yeah, because like when I got out of college, like I kind of went into it blind. Like I had a few contacts of people that I knew in the industry, but I mean I got extremely lucky. I knew someone who knew someone who was
Yeah,
looking for a videographer, and I reached out to that person, and they really took a gamble because like they didn't know me besides just knowing that person, and
yeah.
they kind of gave me my first real like job out of college, and I'm still in touch with them. I still actually work with the guy even now, and it made a huge difference because like the learning that I was able to take away from his experience, helped me 10,000 times on the business side
Sure.
because that's the part I didn't know, and he had been doing it for about 10 years at that point, and really
Wow.
kind of just every time we'd be on set, he would be like, this is what I'm doing. He was a very transparent guy, and it's great because you don't. It's unfortunate in a way because you don't always meet people like that out in the world.
Yeah.
But he was nice enough to really do that for me, and I took what I learned from that and sort of started doing my own thing. And like I said, still working with him and stuff. But yeah, that's the thing. I think, you really have to sit down and sometimes listen too. Cause
Absolutely. Allow someone to be your mentor. So you got lucky, and so that was great on him. And God bless well, excuse me, that I bless that person that helped you, because that you're right. Not a lot of people will say, "Hey, this is you should do this," or give you that direction that we all so desperately need. I would have loved a mentor when I started the fashion, like my fashion thing, because I invested a lot of money and it really didn't go anywhere. I love the process, but it would have been nice for someone to say, "Hey, you need to slow down a little bit. Why don't you do this, like do this and this for your brand to be more successful?" We live and learn. Experiences
Mhm.
are part of like our part of what makes us who we are today. So I mean, that's awesome. Let's change directions a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're a published author, and now let me tell you something. I love poems. I
Mm-hmm.
love poems. I used to write a lot of poems when I was like in junior high, high school, outside of high school, and I even try to sit down now just to allow myself to flow. It's for some reason it's not as easy for me now as it was many years ago. But you wrote "Just a Boy Blaming Himself," and this is available on Amazon, correct?
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about what motivated you or your inspiration behind this book.
Well, so it really started with just having the Notepad app on my phone. And what I would do is like if I was out somewhere or doing something or just anything, and I just had like a couple lines in my head, I would just pull my phone out and just start typing away. And the next thing you know, I'd have like a poem that was written. And I really had no aspirations to turn it into a book whatsoever. But as the years went on, I'd find myself in like tough emotional situations or thinking back to like previous like rough patches in my life. And, I'd write these things out and I would share them with like friends, either through like
Yeah.
text messages or just messaging them on like an app or something. And they would always be like, man, like this is good. Like this is good stuff. And I'd always kind of brush it off like, yeah, I mean, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know, something in me this past year, I think, with everything that's been going on with the world and all that stuff, really sort of like stirred that creative piece in me. And I thought, maybe I could like turn this into a book or collect these all. I mean, I was sitting on 100+ poems that I had, so I kind of figured why not. And I found somebody who does like editing and he sat
Uh-huh.
through and corrected any like grammar mistakes or anything like that and
Very
got
cool.
it together.
So you got this, you published this yourself?
Mm-hmm. So through the Amazon like Kindle publishing program that they have.
That's very cool. So you're maybe motivating me to get my poems together. I'm sitting. I don't know. I mean, that this to put yourself out there like this is even like kind of it makes you. Does it make you feel vulnerable?
In a way, but like I feel like it's good because I feel like a lot of what I've been through in life, like especially with like previous relationships and stuff, it sort of turns into like almost a mental prison where like
Sure.
you've been through so many events with somebody, but you can't really like share that with anybody else because that was the one person that was around that with you. So
Yeah.
it's vulnerable in a sense, but it also makes me feel like I'm kind of putting myself to people and they can understand me a lot better
Right.
when they meet me. Um,
Yeah.
so it's been interesting because that's been the feedback a lot of people have given me, like, man, like this is really like, a kind of unfiltered, brave stuff to put out there. And I'm just like, again, I'm like, I guess so.
Do you
I
feel a
just
little
sort of did it.
sorry? Do you feel a little liberated after publishing this?
Yeah, I definitely it feels good kind of getting it out there. I think more than anything it was sort of like a very cathartic exercise for me. And the fact that anybody gets anything out of it is just like icing on top of the cake.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have a favorite? Can we read one?
Um I really like there's a poem in there called that was You Were a Doll is what it was called. Let me see if I can find the page.
You
'Cause I think
or a
it's
doll?
yeah, You Were a
Bear with us,
Doll.
you guys, while we find this, because I let's read something out of this book. Like I said, it's Just a Boy Blaming Himself on Amazon. Let's support Daniel and all of his great creative works and his journey, because we all need support in life, and you never know what you'll find in here that you're gonna love that you can relate to.
So it's page 171
You
on
mind? Do you
there.
want to read it, or should I read it?
I can read it.
Okay. Yes.
We'll get an exclusive. Okay, here we go. You were a doll. You were a doll made up from scrapped wood and metal shavings, splintered from the pieces that made you whole. You were a doll, devoid of diminishing thoughts that made you weep precious tears. You were a doll with a face that could never see things close, only distant objects floating by. You were a doll, wanting nothing more than just to die, but life was flowing endlessly through your veins.
Oh my God. Oh, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, oh, so I received this last night and I can't wait to dive deeper into it and like just really kind of connect with you through your writing because like I said, I love poems. I'm a pretty deep person. I'm real bubbly and fun, but I'm a deep person. I get it. I get it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, with that being said, can you plug everything for everybody? So anyone that wants to support Daniel, watch his journey and get the book, what have you, go ahead. Let us know where people can follow you, reach you, and just see what you've got going on.
Yeah, so the easiest thing would probably be on Instagram for me, which is going to be my production company page, which is at Two Tony Productions. That's TOTONY Productions. Or my personal Instagram is at Dan Hess 90. And then outside of that, you can find me on Facebook, just Daniel Hess. And you can even reach out to me through email with Daniel at twotonyproductions.com. I'm always happy to chat to fellow creatives and artists out there anytime.
Perfect. I'm going to put all those links in the description of the episode, along with a link to his book. You guys, do you have a piece of advice or anything you'd like to share with the audience, anyone that might be going through this somewhat similar journey as you?
I would say to anybody out there, if you're nervous about doing anything, changing careers or anything like that, it's life. Life is tough, but there's something out there that makes it easy. And for me, that's always just been the simplest answer, which is you just Google it. you know, so that's whenever I've had an issue, Googled it. I mean, when I wanted to publish this book, I Googled how to self-publish. It's out there. The resources are there. You just have to really sit yourself down and take the time to look into it.
Oh my God, I totally agree. I mean, when someone asks me, we're going to wrap things up here in a minute, but when someone asks me, I'm just like, everybody carries around a mini computer in your pocket. Just Google it. Like
Yep, so
you
true.
find an answer to any question you have. With that being said, Daniel, thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast. We're going to have you come back after you start making some waves with your pitch deck and everything that you want to do here coming up soon in the future.
Of course,
As
thank
always,
you.
you guys, this is your host, Deanna Kuempel with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. And I will be back soon with some more dynamic guests.